X-ray. Plain film X-rays are the most common diagnostic radiology tool. It is most commonly used because it's fast and cheap and provides basic information if there are any fractures or breaks. X-ray is a 2D modality, often used to find broken bones. The difference between ionizing radiation and non-ionizing is that non-ionizing radiation is a form with less energy than ionizing radiation, meaning that it is potentially less harmful. A significant negative or drawback of doing X-rays is that the patient is exposed to radiation. Question: what is the most common imaging modality used in the medical field? What is first? Answer: X-ray. Something to think about. If someone falls and there is a suspected fracture of the arm, the best imaging modality to visualize the anatomy, possible side effects, and cost would be X-ray. Mammography uses X-ray used to see breast tissue. Most highly regulated imaging modalities, regulated by the federal government, their work is critically analyzed on a federal basis. Facilities are to send several results to make sure that the patients know what the results are. Dense breasts are more challenging to image with an X-ray. When looking at cancer, we are looking at the calcification of the cancer. They are not very comfortable. Ultrasound. They do not use any type of radiation. They use compression waves. Will not hurt people. It uses transducers, sends out sound waves. Transmitting sound waves through the transducer, very user-dependent. Ultrasound techs are very intimate with patients up close and personal. Ultrasound will capture through blood, but if it hits a dense item like a valve, it will bounce back. You can see flow very well. You can see the flow of blood, and you can see if there is regurgitation. Doppler effect. Usually a 20/60 exam. No special preparation is needed. Question: which modality is mainly about how the user does the exams, focused on very skilled hand placement, and requires technologists to be intimate and close to the patient throughout the exam? Answer: ultrasound, CAT scan, CT scan. They use single contrast. It is an X-ray except that it spins around, shooting into the patient at many different angles. All that data will make a 3D image. Tomography is a cross-sectional analysis. It is like an X-ray but is better, good at looking at bone and calcification. CT with contrast, bounce the X-ray radiation back. The downside is that it uses ionizing radiation. CT contrast has lots of allergic reactions, more than MRI. CTA, better, collects data much quicker, bets to look at coronary angiography. Why would we not be able to do the CT exam? If someone is allergic to the contrast, metal can cause artifacts and we will not be able to see the vessels very well. Risks of CT negative side effects. Radiation exposure. Question: what imaging modality uses an X-ray and only produces one type of contrast? Answer: CT. Question: how does CT generate an image? Answer: it uses an X-ray from many different angles. Then a computer will take all of the data and make it into a 3D image. Tomography. Question: what is something that differentiates MRI and CT? Answer: CT uses ionizing radiation, which is one of the negatives of it. Nuclear med 41. Injecting a radioactive isotope, a radioactive substance that shoots off ionizing radiation that is attached to a glucose molecule into the patient. It is a molecule that is producing it on X-ray. It's like putting a small X-ray machine in someone and letting it shoot out. It attaches to the glucose molecule since glucose provides us with a lot of energy. Tumors and cancers will grow in our body. Glucose will go to different parts of the body that need energy and will also go to tumors. So we will see hotspots of... So basically, injecting radioactive isotopes in someone and that radioactive isotope is going to different parts of the body, particularly cancer that are metabolizing, and that area is being absorbed by such cancers that will show up as hotspots. Patients with cancer will get a PET, MRI 47. It is time-consuming and expensive. Non-ionizing radiation. It uses a very strong magnet. We are using a RF system, which is the non-ionizing radiation, radio waves. We see soft tissue better than any other modality. The difference is grayscale tissue, contrast, difference in grayscale color of different tissues. There are many safety issues, lots of precaution. We use non-ionizing radiation. We inject IV start, IV inject contrast. Very loud, must use hearing protection. Terms: active device, pacemakers, implanted devices that have active electronic or magnetic components, passive device, catheters, purely mechanical features. 5 Gauss line. Defines a border as an area in which the magnetic field could affect implanted devices, such as pacemakers. Image artifact. Artifact ruins the quality of image, will result in terrible blacked out images, resulting in radiologists not being able to diagnose patients. Mr. Compatible. Titanium. Material is not affected by the magnetic field. And Mr. Environment. Has unique safety hazards for patients with implants and external devices and accessory equipment. Any equipment used near the machine should be labeled Mr. Unsafe, Mr. Conditional, Mr. Safe, and Mr. Safe. No safety hazards. Specific absorption rate. How much RF radio frequency is being absorbed by the patient? We don't want a patient to warm up to absorb too much energy over some time, so we have to measure that, which is done with the SAR. Time rate of change of magnetic field, dBTB. We do not want to overstimulate the patient with changing magnetic fields. Changes in magnetic fields come from the change in gradients. The turning on and off of the magnetic field dBTB means a change in the magnetic field over the change in time. We use this to measure how much peripheral nerve stimulation and how much rate of magnetic change a patient is experiencing over time. Fringe field. The field around the magnet extends further than the magnet bore. TVMF. Time-varying magnetic field gradients. Provide position-dependent variation in magnetic field strength. Derived from nuclear magnetic resonance, NMR, nuclear was dropped to avoid fear from the general public receiving scans. Nuclear actually refers to the nucleus of the atom. The scientist who discovered that the moving magnetic field through coils of wire will induce an electrical current is Michael Faraday. Since electricity can produce magnetism, why couldn't we do it in reverse? If I move a magnet near a conductor, body water, there will be electricity that is produced. The person who is credited with taking the first MRI image is Raymond Damadian, the person who is credited with creating or designing the gradient system, which is still used for MRI. He designed and implemented the use of 3 gradients, GX, G, Gs, by Paul Lauterbur. The first image utilizing MRI principles was created by Paul Lauterbur. What safety concerns do we have? The main concern is the fact that ferromagnetic objects can quickly become projectiles. Anything with iron is considered ferromagnetic, so the primary safety concern involving the main magnetic field is the fact that objects can become projectiles. The main safety concern for patient injury involving RF is RF burns. The FDA limits the amount of RF exposure a patient can be exposed to in order to limit the heating of tissues. The limit rate is known as SAR. The agency that sets the limits on the rate of the change of TVMF is the FDA. There are different types of scanners. Low field, 1T, 35D. Mid field, 0.5T, 1.0T. High field, 1.5T. Ultra high field, 2 NOTs. 3T is most common. Systems designed to improve SNR, signal-to-noise ratio. Field strength increases, SNR increases. Permanent magnets have a vertical field. Go to slide 30. Solenoid magnets have a horizontal field. A quench is when helium is quickly released from the MR machine, causing the machine to be non-superconductive and eliminating the magnetic field. When this occurs, we must not panic. Use the intercom to communicate with the patient. Turn the exhaust fan on. Prop open the door between the operator room and hallway. Help the patient out. Evacuate all personnel. To avoid a quench, we must be sure to check cryogen level daily. Question: how often should cryogen levels be checked? Answer: daily. The emergency stop button turns off all electrical power to the magnet's power distribution unit, PDU. Magnet remains switched on. Shutting down the power to the PDU is required for life-threatening situations such as: question: the emergency off button should be utilized when? Fire in the computer room, sparks and loud noises from the scan room. The flooding or sprinkling system goes off. Catastrophic equipment failure. Question: when a technologist presses the red button and results in an explosive release of the cryogen in the magnet, what is this called? Answer: quench. When this button is pushed, it does not initiate a quench. The magnet remains at field. What is better about CT, depending on what we are imagining? CTA is better than MRA. MRI is the best imaging modality for visualizing tissues, but not for visualizing blood vessels. The gradients cause a lot of noise. They create high enough decibel levels to create ear injuries. So during an exam earplugs, any form of hearing protection is required. Earplugs can reduce noise by 10 to 20 dB.